Hey, this is Nick, aka The Weiler here from DOG, Deadly Operative Grunts, and we're sharing something a little new for you. This is a new segment that we'll have for Season 3 called Digging Deep. This is where we go on one subject and really dig deep and tell you our thoughts on it. Today's subject is Portal Knights versus Trove. Now, recently on the PlayStation 4, we got two games that were very similar to one another. One called Trove, an MMO free-to-play game, and another, Portal Knights, a downloadable one. So let's go through and talk about all the pros and cons about each one. First up, graphics. In Trove, everything is very blocky, and everything is meant to look kind of like an 8-bit but in 3D. So while this is a nice style, I don't particularly like it that much, and obviously you can't get a lot of detail out of everything. In Portal Knights, everything is a lot more cartoony, there's a lot more detail, and things just look a little bit smoother, even though the terrain itself is a lot more blocky, because it is still a Minecraft kind of game. Everything is just a lot smoother. Enemies look a lot better, your attacks look a lot better, and it's just visually appeasing. So this point has to go to Portal Knights. Next up, we're going to talk about combat. Now, combat in Trove is extremely chaotic. Pretty much as soon as an enemy sees you, they come straight at you and throw everything they have at you. And if there's multiple ones, they're throwing multiple attacks at you, and it can be extremely chaotic. And as far as the variety in enemies, there are a lot of varieties, but since all their attack patterns pretty much boil down to them just coming straight at you, there isn't really that much variety in the enemies. Now in Portal Knights, there's a lot more dodging. The combat is kind of like when you lock on to an enemy in Ocarina of Time. There's a little letterbox thing, you can strafe left to right, and you can even dodge. So there's a little bit more strategy in it. Plus, the enemy variety is huge. There are all types of different enemies, and each one have a different attack set that you can learn and then dodge. So this point has to go to Portal Knights again. But the biggest flaw in the combat is what brings us to our next subject, which is skills and leveling system. Now in Trove, there are 14 different classes with 3 abilities and a base attack. So that means pretty much 4 different ways of attacking. Not only that, but some of the different characters are able to heal or shield, or they have a rage meter or something. So there's many different ways of attacking. The only problem is, like I said in combat, is that everything just kind of comes straight at you. So that's a little bit of a problem. But as far as leveling up, your levels actually go along with your skills, and your skills can become more and more powerful. Now in Portal, there are only 3 classes with a base attack, and when you level up, all that happens is you get these different buffs. So let's say you're a long-range character. Well, you might get a buff in your attack if you stay still for more than 5 seconds. Which, since this is a lot more of a dodgy game, staying still for 5 seconds pretty much means you need a tank character or a warrior character in the front doing all the damage, taking all the damage. So even though I like the combat more in Portal Knights, when it comes to the skills and the leveling up system, this point has to go to Trove. So lastly, we're going to talk about gameplay. Now, in Trove is an MMO, and basically what you do is you go from one dungeon to the next, fight all the enemies, and get a bunch of loot. This is a loot fest. Whereas in Portal, it's more of a co-op, world-based, so you'll have procedurally generated worlds, which Trove has procedurally generated worlds as well, but Trove is way more open. Whereas with the co-op world-based, it's more about crafting. rather than getting a bunch of loot. So you might be able to craft something better, but it's going to take you a long time. So this point, once again, has to go to Trove. Alright, so this leaves us with a tie. So where do we go from here? Well, I think it all goes down to your preference. What would you prefer? Would you prefer more of an MMO, where you go from dungeon to dungeon? Not heavy on the combat, but a lot of skills? Or would you like a more co-op experience, going from one smaller world to another smaller world? Would you like the open world or a smaller world? Would you like an MMO or just 4 players? Would you like a really simplistic combat system or one that you need a little bit more strategy with? Either way, it's really good. One thing I do have to point out though is that Trove is a free-to-play game, and you can get somewhat the same experience that you get from Portal Knights. Portal Knights is $19.99. I bought this not only so that I could do this video, but I bought it because I was actually kind of genuinely excited for it. And that was because, in my opinion, the demo kind of misleads you. If you play the demo, you can go into the first world and it kind of shows you how the game works. And one of the features it shows you is that there's this orange orb over certain areas on the map. And if you go to those orbs and you complete whatever it is in that little area, that orb will turn green. This immediately made me think about Trove and how there are these towers, and when you go to the towers and you defeat the boss and get the loot, then comes a big X over the dungeon, so you know that you completed that one. So I thought to myself, well, I like the combat more in Portal Knights, so I'm gonna stick with Portal Knights. Then once you get into the actual game, you quickly realize that that was just the tutorial, and it's a more make your own adventure. Now I realize that there's a lot of people out there that like those type of games, who like basically just given a free reign and they can do whatever they want, but I do like the more guidedness that there is to Trove. I know that in this direction there are 3 dungeons and I can go and have some fun over there. But in Portal Knights, I felt a little misled because I thought it was going to be somewhat the same. Not only that, but they obviously advertise it as if there's going to be this story, quote unquote, that there's going to be these bosses. And obviously there are bosses, but the problem is that most of the game is you just aimlessly going about and crafting and everything. I mean, the first 3 or 4 hours of the game, I'm stuck with the exact same bow and arrow. Whereas in Trove, within 10 minutes, I've already been given so many options as far as loot that I could just keep grinding and grinding, and it'll just be so much fun. Then you add other players on top of that, and it's just even more fun. So I think it comes up to your personal preference, whether it be MMO or a more tight co-op experience. But my personal experience was kind of tainted by the fact that I was a little misled with the demo. So I have to give it to Trove. I feel like it gives almost the exact same experience, but you don't have to pay any money if you don't want to. You'll start off with 1 character, you also have a character unlock coin, and you also have a free character if you have PlayStation Plus. So that's 3 characters that you get off right off the bat with tons of different abilities and attacks and strategies. Whereas Portal Knights, you pay $19.99 for the most basic classes that you would expect in an RPG. And all you do is just mash the attack button. There's only 1 attack. There's at least 4 in Trove. And so you can at least strategize a little bit more as to how you're going to attack. So I think I have to give it to Trove, because at least it's free to play and I don't have to spend any money. I don't have to invest in it. Whereas Portal Knights you do. So that's my personal opinion. Have you played these games? Which one do you like better? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let us know what you think about Digging Deep, where we go into a subject and we just kind of give you our opinion. Let us know. We're going to have a lot more when Season 3 starts. So I hope you enjoyed this preview. This is Nick from the Deadly Operative Grunts, and we're feeling squirrely. Fingers